can see it, maybe you can't. So that's the card that popped up for today's practice. I will tell you a little bit more about enlightenment and how we might get there throughout the class. Don't have your expectations too high, as always. Just work with what is there today. Whether that is a problem in your knee and your hip, whether something is really heavily weighing on your mind, whatever it is, yoga's got some answers to it. It might not go away, but maybe you find a little bit more ease through it. So let's begin our practice lying down. Oh, hang on for a second. If you've got a strap or something like that around you, please bring that to your mat. We might need it, you might not. It's more so if you've got trouble catching your foot behind your back, or if you just want a more open knee to do so, and then maybe for leg extension as well. So it's not essential, but might be nice to have. And then lie yourself down onto your backs once you've got that. And as you come to lie down, you can gather around something like a bolster or a cushioning or anything that you might need. We'll stay there for a little bit, as I would love you to practice lying down to begin with. Allowing yourself all of the movements that are required to feel at ease. Allowing the body to settle into comfort. And I'm not telling you where to put your legs and where to put your arms. I trust that you find a space where they rest comfortably. And keeping your body at ease. This posture is the biggest posture of all when we think about our practice. Shavasana can be done by nearly everybody. And it might be just what you need when everything else isn't quite there. So let's allow ourselves to be grateful for a body that is able to come to the practice and embracing it just as it is. Noticing that you might be completely comfortable, but maybe there's that little thing that kind of distracts you from completely relaxing. And acknowledge that that is okay if there's nothing that can be done about it right now. Enlightenment, the card said, to pass is what goes with it. And the significant sentence that comes along with enlightenment here is, if I seek peace, I must embrace my fears. The legend says, Topaz is a renowned spiritual teacher. People travel to hear his wisdom. He's journeying up a mountain to seek private counsel with the great servant when a young boy stops him. The boy asks, if enlightenment is to be found in my own mind, how do I get there? the moment before he disappears into the mist, Topaz replies, through your fears. Maybe you can acknowledge that you have fears too, just like anybody else. And maybe you even have some type of fears around your practice. As for now, we will scale it back to what is happening on this mat. And fear is a very big word. Maybe it's more concerns or negative self-talk. I will ask you now to bring the awareness to something that is quite soothing. The flow of your breath through your nose. And as you focus on the breath now, you might choose to slightly or gradually begin to deepen your breathing. Noticing what a calm but deeper breath has to offer. How you are feeling when you're focusing on it and deepening it. Maybe as you keep your focus on the breath, you can also remember times of greater fears or uncertainties and how the breath was behaving in this time. But keep yours comfortably and slow. And I will ask you to change your breath even further to see what is happening within as you stay aware of yourself. Maybe you can lengthen your in-breath to your own count of 4 or 5. Then open the mouth and breathe out for 4 or 5 as well. But just through the mouth, like a soft, slow sigh. If this feels good, repeat it a few times. And maybe your breath becomes even longer. Don't stress about your breathing, just play with it. Breathing in through the nose to a certain count. And as you open the mouth, you might even allow a subtle sound to escape for the sighing effect to intensify. But keep the sighing slow, deliberate, and either same length as your in-breath or a little bit longer. Repeating that for 2 more breaths. And then pausing it all together and allowing the breath to flow naturally once more. Noticing if any change has occurred. It not necessarily has, but maybe you can observe something. Then start to deepen your breath again. And maybe take it another step further After the inhalation, just holding the breath a little bit within the body. And this time then sighing the breath out, maybe even quite loud if you have the space around you to do so. And letting go of any control of the length of the exhalation. And then play with that for a little bit. So the hold of the breath after the in-breath is absolutely optional. And then focusing on the release of the breath as a sigh. Quite noisy or quiet, whichever you prefer. But letting go of controlling the length. And just noticing as you play with it, breath after breath, that maybe you do have a preference right now in this moment of the sigh being longer or shorter, more noisy, more forceful, or more soft. And allow yourself to do that for 2 more breaths as well. And after you've done so, relax your breathing entirely. And notice how you're feeling now. Sighing is one of our natural things that we can do without any control over it at all, to bring that immediate stress relief into the body. And oftentimes fear is causing exactly that stress. I would love you now to begin to move. If your legs are out long, have them long. If the feet are on the ground, keep them on the ground. As you take your next inhalation, lift your arms all the way up and over the head. Find a big stretch here, longer in one side and then the other. And then play with that a little bit more from side to side, bringing length into one and into the other side. And then once again, stretch out the whole body, whether you're pointing or flexing the feet, the wrists, up to you. And then releasing the arms back down by the sides. Bringing your right knee into the chest and give it a good squeeze in towards your body. Release it slightly as you're breathing in, and then draw it in again as you're exhaling. No strap needed, just extending the arms over the head onto the floor and the leg up towards the ceiling. That's your in-breath. And if it works for you, on your out-breath, embrace your core, lower your arms and your straight leg down towards the ground. And of course, we're controlling this movement. Then let the body relax once you've landed. Next, bring your left knee into the chest. Give that a good squeeze in. Wait for another breath to repeat. And then we'll extend again, arms over the head, leg towards the ceiling. And as you're exhaling, maybe lowering the straight arms and straight leg down slowly. Relaxing the body once more. Doing the obvious, bringing both knees into the chest. Again, wait here for another breath. Sorry. And once more, extend, arms overhead, legs to the ceiling. If your lower back allows, lower down again. Arms by the sides. And once you've landed, pause once more. Now, let's step the right foot onto the mat and roll onto your left-hand side. You can use, oh, sorry, your arm under the head or a cushion. Bending the right knee deeply and maybe taking a hold of the foot. And this is where the strap might come in handy if you need a bigger gap in the knee or you can't quite reach the foot. I would ask you to draw the foot up towards the buttocks while you're moving your hips forward. Head comfortably resting, supported. And then if it feels right from there, bringing the foot actively back into the hand. Keep your knees quite close, so not allowing the knee to lift as such. Keep it at the same height as it might move backwards with the foot pushing into the hand. Then release the foot. As you step it onto the ground behind you, roll back down onto your back. If you prefer, step the left foot to the ground as well. Otherwise, just your arms by your sides. Squeeze your buttocks as you inhale. And on the exhalation, push your hips up. If your left leg is long, point out through the toes. And on the next exhalation, in that case, you flex the foot and release your buttocks back down, extending your right leg out. We'll step the left foot onto the ground and rolling over onto the right-hand side this time. And you can use your arm again as you're cushioning. Taking a hold of your left foot. Bring the heel towards the buttocks, with or without the strap here. The hips are moving forward. And you could then push the foot into the hand. Keeping the knee at about the same height, the hips still quite actively moving forward. And then as you release the foot down, step it behind you. Roll again onto your back. And if you had both feet on the ground before, you might want to repeat it. Otherwise, keep the right leg long. Point out through the toes, arms by the sides, squeeze the buttocks, and on an exhalation, start to lift your hips. To release that, flex the right foot and roll back down onto your back. Now let's step the right foot down as well, and you might bring your feet a bit closer for a full bridge. Arms down by your sides, feet, knees, hip distance. Inhale again, start to squeeze your buttocks. And as you're breathing out, begin to lift the hips up. Simply holding here might be what you want to do today. You can even stay a bit lower than myself. Or you could lift the arms all the way up and over the head. Still squeezing through the buttocks as you're working on the extension of the front of the body. Another breath here. And while you're breathing out, lowering the arms and the back again to the mat. Letting your knees fall out to the sides now, touching the soles of the feet together, allowing a little bit of openness to come here into the front of the hips, the inner thighs. And we might use this openness as you bring your left knee up and step the left foot to the ground. Placing your right ankle onto the left thigh, leaving the knee open. If this feels right, you might need a strap here as well. Reach your arms through between the leg and take a hold of the back of the thigh, or a half pigeon variation on your back. As you allow the legs to come in a little bit closer, try not to force it. See what happens and see if you can utilize your breathing. And if this feels quite right, you could gently rock a bit from side to side. And then maybe you found your really tight spot. Lean a little bit out of the alignment to hold this tight spot. And maybe stay with it for a deep breath in and a sigh. Then step your left foot back down onto the ground, quite close to your buttocks. Keep the ankle on the thigh if that works for you, and arms lengthen down by your side. Inhale, squeeze your buttocks. Breath out and lift your hips. Please modify if you need to, otherwise stay here for the length of another breath. And then waiting for an exhalation to roll back down onto your back. We step the right foot back onto the mat, letting the left knee fall out to the side. Lifting the left foot to place the ankle on top of the thigh. Notice how this side feels. And we approach it again as we're reaching through the leg and taking a hold of the back of the other. Hugging in here, noticing how it feels. Maybe adding a slight rocking sensation from side to side. Maybe then holding once more, taking a deep breath in. Releasing through the tension that you might have deliberately held. And then stepping your right foot down, again quite close to the buttocks, arms down by the sides, inhale. Exhale, squeeze the buttocks and begin to lift your hips. And whether you do this with the ankles still up or on 2 feet is just a modification. Wait for the next exhalation and roll back down onto your back. Stepping your foot down onto the floor. And allowing the arms to open out to the sides. Step your feet quite wide, maybe even mat distance if you've got one underneath you. Let your knees start to roll to the right and then to the left. And keep doing so. And if it feels good, you could roll the head to the opposite side as well, bringing some further movement in. Maybe this helps to release even further into the hip area. And I will ask you from there to roll all the way around and come onto your front. Placing the hands down by your sides, the legs out long, the tops of the feet are on the ground. We will take a breath in to lift the head, the chest, the right leg. And on the out breath, releasing that again. Inhaling, head, chest, left leg. Exhaling, releasing that again. Inhale, head, chest, both legs, if possible. Exhaling, release that again. Let your right arm lengthen down by your side. Maybe you need a strap for this one as you bend the right knee and take a hold of the foot, or you could bring the strap around it. Get your buttocks and your heel quite close together and encourage the hips to stay on the ground. As you next inhale, extend the foot back into the hand, lifting the head and the chest. Pause here. Left hand could support the balance or might be floating if you prefer. Then release the leg, the right hand and the forehead. Left arm extends along the side, bending the left knee. You may use a strap here or just keep the foot hovering, or maybe you can take a hold of it. Again, bring the heel quite close to your buttocks and encourage your hips to remain grounded. On the next breath in, bring the foot into the hand, lift the head and the chest, and again the option of keeping the right hand grounded or allowing it to hover off the floor. Hold here. And then release. Right hand down by the side, forehead to the floor. Your choice, with the hands grounded, to approach a deeper cobra. But be mindful that the shoulders aren't lifting up. Keep them down, elbows in. Your choice how high you take this cobra as you're breathing in. And then releasing back down. Now, if your lower back feels sore today, you might choose to keep the legs extended or just to bend your knees, allowing the arms to lengthen by the sides. And you could basically go into a back bend right from here. No need to hold on. Maybe you're using your strap or you're taking a hold of the feet. Keeping the knees at maximum hip distance. Start to bring the feet back into the hands as you inhale and lift for a bow pose. So the knees may or may not take off the floor. There's a big extension across the chest as the feet continuously move back into the hands. One more breath only. And then release that. Bring your arms forward, stack your hands, rest the forehead down, and maybe move your hips gently from side to side. Then rest in this pose. Either touch your big toes or let the heels roll out, or just keep the feet relaxed for a moment. Starting to deepen deliberately your breathing, nice and slow, breath in through the nose, expanding into the body wherever it can, and then a sigh down into the floor. And it's your choice entirely. Is this sigh controlled or is it a big release? No right or wrong. If your big toes were touching, let's straighten the ankles back out, point the toes backwards. Hands come down by the sides. Take a breath in to lift up onto all fours, and then stretch back towards your heels when breathing out. And I really mean to stretch. Reach the arms actively towards the front. Your gaze is slow. The shoulders are right around the ears here, but still quite comfortable And maybe stretch that little bit further forward as if there was this beautiful piece of chocolate right in front of your right hand. We can't reach it right now, maybe after class though. And release the right hand. And then do the same with the left hand. Reach forward, just that little bit more space into your left side. And then release that. On the in-breath now, come up onto all fours, lifting your tail and your gaze. Tuck the toes under. On the out-breath, round into your back for a cat. And this cat could be extended with the knees lifting off the ground and coming into downward dog. Notice at first as you land in this posture, where do you need movement? And then act upon the movement. Be that in the legs, in the hips, in the shoulders, in the arms. And if down dog isn't yours, there's always all four stands to remain in. I will ask you now to use your legs and to walk forward towards the top end of your mat. To take a breath in and lengthen, half lift. And on your out breath to fold. If your hands can reach the floor, you might rock a little bit forward and backward across the feet. Maybe even lifting the toes and the heels. Just exploring your range of movement while bending forward. And then allow your feet to remain grounded and your nose to move down towards your knees. Your hands at this stage can relax underneath the shoulders, but maybe encouraging the shoulders gently to lift away from the ears, maybe. Weight a little bit forward in the feet so the tailbone is high. I will ask you now to bend your knees quite deeply, making sure that your toes are facing forward. To lift the arms forward as you're breathing in, and then settling into chair as you're breathing out. As you inhale now, press into the feet, lift the body and open your front. And with the out-breath, returning into chair pose. Arms can be lower than mine if you need to nurture. Inhale, press into the feet, opening your front. Exhaling, go back into the chair, and this time to stay there. So making wise choices around your arms. Focusing more on the weight as it sits within the feet. The light core activation that might help to broaden through the sit bones. So the lower back, the core are supporting the rest of the upper body. Now, as you breathe in, push into the floor. This time, if you like, you can even lift your heels off the ground, growing that little bit taller and starting to balance on your toes. And as you're breathing out, land the heels, have a sigh, your arms relaxing. Now, in the class that I was attending yesterday evening, we had a nice side stretch that I would love to share with you. It gets you that little bit deeper, but without too much force. So let's keep our balanced stance and take a breath in to lift both of your arms up. Now we will bend towards the right side first. So let's lower the right arm down and begin to extend into the side of the body by bending sideways. Now what I'd like you to do is lift your right heel and then fall more into that left side, getting your hip and your shoulder closer and still reaching out into either your left hand fingertips or even bending the elbow to go even deeper into the left side. Then lift back up, both arms rising. Have a sigh, relax them. Notice how you're feeling now in this one side. Maybe there's things like challenges showing up as well. Let's try the other. Lifting the arms up, breath in. And then let your left arm lower. And as you're breathing out, lean over towards the left side. Just doing that first. We do that all the time, really. Side bending. And then once you're here, starting to peel your left heel off the floor. And then deliberately bringing your hip and your shoulder closer together, shortening into that left side, where we're creating a lot more space in the right. Now you could reach into your right fingers, or you could bend your arm, and with that maybe get even deeper into the side. Let's take a breath to lower the heel, lift the arms, and a sigh to let it go. Of course, with all the preparation that we have done lying down, if you want to use a strap for a dancer, please take your strap and get that around your foot. We will start by standing on the left leg, so we'll begin with the right leg. So the strap is only optional, as you might lift your right foot, take the strap around it and maybe behind you to lift. Otherwise, you will take a hold of the foot, bring your knees quite close, your buttocks to the heel, and same as we did lying down on the floor, moving the hips forward. From there, could you lift the left arm and bring the foot back into the hand? Now, naturally, the body wants to open, and I would ask you to do so. So as we're opening, we're basically back in that half bow pose we did lying down on the front. Only that now we're applying a lot of strength into the left leg and a steady gaze point to hold our balance. Notice how you feel. Take a deep breath. And then release that as you're breathing out. Dancing and dancers always welcome. We will change sides. So let's bring the weight onto the right foot. And the same here, if you want to use a strap, feel free to do so as you bend your left knee. Maybe we instead take a hold of the foot, bringing your knee to each other, the heel towards the buttocks, and doing nothing more but moving your hips forward from there. If you want to progress, lifting the right arm and beginning to bring the foot into the hand, and just follow the guidance of this movement as we bring a lot of space into the front body. So the moving forward would be a natural reaction, but the whole front of the body remains open, and you keep moving your foot into your hand while standing real strong on the right leg now. Gaze open, steady, and lift. Have a sigh to drop it and let it go. So what better to do than extending further into the sides as we step our feet apart in preparation for a triangle pose. So you would want to turn your whichever foot you choose to. Let's say one foot turns forward, the other one is kind of out to the side. There's so many different variations. I prefer my toes to face straight away, but I know there's variations where the heel comes out a bit and you're getting a bit more a rotation towards the front leg. Up to you, whatever feels best. Lifting the arms out, but keep a firm stance now. And while you're breathing out, finding your way into your pose. So maybe we're thinking again of the side bend that we had, where we were collapsing the lower side of the body. Here we don't. Here we want to extend into both sides. You now know how it feels to shorten this side. See if you can reach your body out. If you want further extension, you could swing your arm over the front of the body and then bring it above the head. So the palm of the hand here is facing down. Keep yourself standing strong. And as I'm always talking, I notice I start to sink down into the lower hip. See if you avoid this by really engaging into the legs, the sides, and the reach forward. Then let's bring a bend into the front knee to release it all. Lift yourself up, release the arms and turn the foot forward. We will simply change sides from here so the other foot turns out. Legs will remain straight, lifting the arms out to shoulder height to begin with. Engage into the legs before you breathe out to enter the triangle pose. Same here, think about the sensations we had, quite intense in our side bend, and how this is tending to happen here as well. But here we want the length in both sides, while keeping the strength in the legs and the openness in the chest. Noticing if the positioning of the foot behind you serves you well, or adjust it if needed. If you want to extend it any further, let your arms swing in front of the body and then take it up and above the head. Now you would even more need to control that you are standing strong and that the sides of the waist are lengthening. To release it now, bend your knee, lift yourself up, release the arms and turn your feet forward. We will come into wide-legged standing forward bend. So for some this means the stands might be a bit wider or a bit shorter. Lifting the arms out once again. And as you're breathing out, maybe the knees are a bit soft, the core is on as you're folding forward. And then please explore this posture for yourself. What is it that you want? The hands on the big toes, the hands on the outside of the legs, or down on the mat maybe. Allow your head to lower now, to let go of the neck. We've been holding the neck for a while in these triangles now. If your hands are on the floor, place them underneath your shoulders. And again, maybe there's that subtle lift, that soft lift of the shoulders away from your ears. The feet will be grounded here as well, but maybe the weight shifts slightly forward, so tailbone is quite high. And now breathe. If you like the sighing, maybe bring in a few sighs, a deep inhalation, and then play around with the length of your sigh if you choose to. On your next breath in, come up to half lift. Then breathe out, fold once more. I'd like you to bend your knees now, and as you breathe in, let's reach the arms out and up. And on the out breath, a sigh, and let the arms swing. Bringing your feet back in a little bit closer. Once more, I give you the option of using a strap for our last standing posture. We'll begin by standing on the left leg again. lifting the right knee. Now you could use this posture and just hug the knee in, similar to what we did lying down. Or you could lean the body forward, take a hold of your foot, steadying the gaze. And from there, there's another option, that is to extend the leg forward. Again, stay strong on your standing leg. And if you like, you can lower your gaze towards the knee, challenging the balance that little bit more. Then bend the knee again, lifting the arms, land and release. And let's try that on the other side, lifting your left knee into the chest. And please do feel welcome to stay exactly here and with that. Or lean your body forward, maybe taking a hold of the foot. And the next maybe is to extend the leg out in front. If you find the balance here, you might lower your gaze towards the knee. Noticing how we're standing strong on the leg on the floor. To release, bend the knee, reach the arms up, inhale, lower, and let it go. I will ask you for a moment to come into mountain pose. Just step your feet onto the ground to lengthen the whole body. Maybe even to open the palms forward and either steadying the gaze or closing the eyes. Doing absolutely nothing but standing. Noticing the ground underneath you. The flow of your breath. Tapping back into the stillness from which we entered the practice. I will ask you from here to soften the knees, to tuck the chin in, and to gently roll down. To come onto your knees. And to have the knees at least hip distance apart as you come to stand on them. I'll add another back bend just to fire you up for your day. We'll place the hands into the lower back, fingers pointing down. Moving the elbows, the shoulder blades quite close, and beginning to engage your buttocks muscles. Then take a deep breath to lift through the sternum. You could keep your gaze forward if your neck is sore today, or lift the chin and guide the head backwards. You can even choose to reach now for your heels if that is for you. Breathe. Hold and breathe. Your extension is perfect, just as it is. No need to alter it. And as you release, hands go back into the lower back, head is lifting, and we're sitting gently down onto the heels. I would love you to be upside down just for a little while, as you might place your hands down by your sides. Tuck the chin in and lower the head. Either you're staying here, or you might even support if your blood pressure is a little bit high, you've got pressure issues. Or you can roll up onto the crown of the head. Now today, if you're feeling your neck, shoulders are perfectly fine, you can not only choose to stay here, but you could also choose to tuck your toes under and extend your legs. There's a lot more weight coming into the crown of the head, so be mindful. We'll stay for 2 more breaths in whatever shape you came into. And to release it, knees come down, toes untuck, and you curl back into a child's pose. I suggest to support the child's pose, maybe with stacked hands. Then curl yourself up halfway to sit, roll over, and if you need socks or anything else, take that with you as we return into Shavasana pose. Supporting yourself, keeping yourself warm. And this time, at the end of the practice, I would love you to come into full Shavasana, which simply means to allow the arms to fall away. If your legs aren't supported with anything underneath them, you might let the feet roll out to the sides. Or maybe you need your feet on the ground. But allowing this openness now. We've worked strong on the openness of our body to face whatever is out there and to get the energy to deal with our fears. Now it's time to surrender to that is. To invite the stillness back. And if stillness is that is challenging you today, you could keep the eyes open and just fixing your gaze. Allow yourself to notice while you remain in stillness in your body, how your face is feeling. Can you more deeply release into your face? Soften it that little bit more. How is your neck and your shoulders? Can you allow that little bit more to bring softness in there? How are your hips and your legs? Can you invite more softness into them? Noticing if your mind has wandered and taking it back to your breath. If possible, You will now transition into a seated position for a short meditation. But if this doesn't feel right for you, you can always stay lying down instead. Don't engage too much with what is outside of you. Come into your seated position. Support yourself with something underneath, maybe even leaning against the wall. Resting your hands down unless you stay on your back. Closing the eyes again if you had opened them, or finding a new gaze point. Noticing the change of position if you have chosen to sit up. And invite the softness back in. If you prefer to keep your awareness just on the flow of the breaths, please do so. Otherwise, maybe inquire, are your thoughts always driving your choices? How can I use my thoughts to heal myself? In your mind now, maybe notice what type of fears you have. Maybe there's 1, 2, 3. Doesn't matter. Don't engage into the fear itself, just noticing which ones you have. And imagine these fears staying with you always. And then imagine your fear, one by one if you had multiple, walking in faith alongside you. Now stride through the garden of fear and allow them to stay behind. What is more painful, keeping your fears or releasing them? A choice is yours. I will ask you to, if you're lying down,